Vegetables. Field and bed preparation. It is not essential to build permanent beds for vegetable production, but we feel it has advantages. In cooler climates or seasons, raised beds allow for higher soil temperatures. In areas where there are poor soils, by utilizing the thin layer of topsoil in the pathway and placing it on the bed, we create a slightly better seed bed. The bed width should be 110 centimeters and the pathways between 40 centimeters. This means that from one bed to the same position in the next bed will be 150 centimeters. This is important because most of our spacings between crops are 75 centimeters, and thus we can get 2 rows per bed. The length of the bed is not important and should fit in with your intended production plan. Vegetable spacing. Vegetable spacing is very variable depending on the crop or variety. Larger plants such as cabbages, tomatoes, beans, peas and peppers would all be planted in 2 rows per bed or 75 centimeters apart. Rape, spinach and lettuce can all be planted at 3 rows per bed. This means a third row between the other 2, resulting in 37.5 centimeters between rows. Carrots, onions and turnips can all be planted at 5 rows per bed or about 18.5 centimeters between rows. Planting seeds. For vegetables such as carrots, which need to be planted in situ, and other seeds being placed in a seedbed, care needs to be taken. In this case, the bed needs to be prepared to provide a smooth, even surface, and the bed should be very well watered prior to planting. Fine compost should have been added at a rate of 1 wheelbarrow per 2 meters of bed. This is spread evenly over the bed. Using our measuring stick, we can accurately set up a string to guide our planting. Make a shallow planting furrow along the strings. Seed which is very fine needs to be mixed with sand to ensure an even distribution. Using an old bottle with a small amount of sand, sand should be of similar diameter to the seed being planted, do a test to gauge how much sand to pour from the bottle to complete the row. This is a form of calibration. Now that we have established how much sand we need, count or calculate the number of seeds required for the length of row. For example, if the row is 1 meter and the seedlings should be 2 centimeters apart, add 50 seeds. Mix the sand and the seeds very thoroughly and apply at the calibrated speed and volume. Now apply a thin layer of dry soil over the seeds. They should only be covered to the depth 2 to 3 times the diameter of the seed. Use the measuring stick to firmly press the seeds down to achieve a good seed-to-soil contact. Cover the freshly planted area with a layer of fine mulch and then water gently. These seeds need to be monitored very closely, and more water should be added whenever there is a risk of drying out. This would be at least daily, but possibly more often in hot, dry areas. Once the seeds have germinated, open the mulch slightly to allow them to see the light. Continue to ensure moist soil for the first week after germination. Most seedlings require to be grown in a seedbed situation for at least 6 weeks from planting date. At this stage, they will now be ready to be transplanted to the bed where they will grow to maturity. Transplanting seedlings. Transplanting should always be done in the cool of the late afternoon. This gives the maximum amount of time for the seedling to recover before the heat of the following day. Ensure the area where the seedlings are to be lifted from and the area where they will be planted to are both liberally watered. Strings should be set up depending on the best spacing for the crop being planted. Using the measuring stick, identify where along the string the seedling should be placed And then using the planting stick, make a V-shaped depression at least 10 centimeters deep into which the seedling can be planted. When placing the seedling into the hole, make sure that the roots are aligned downwards and not bent facing upwards. Place the planting stick about 5 centimeters away from the hole and insert it into the soil slightly deeper than lower roots. Then press the soil together using the planting stick and firmly planting the seedling. A new depression is formed, which is now used as a watering hole. Ensure maximum soil cover with mulch and water regularly for the first few days after transplanting. The growth and management of seedlings in seed beds is the most difficult area of vegetable production, and it is recommended that good quality seedlings are purchased from a professional nurseryman, if possible. Maintenance: weeding, watering, fertilization. Vegetable beds should be kept weed-free at all times. Water needs to be applied at a rate of approximately 30 millimeters per week, preferably split into 2 applications. This equates to 30 liters per square meter per week. This should be closely monitored and adjusted if plants show signs of water stress. Try to water the plants below the leaves. Watering should also be done in the early hours of the day to ensure that the leaves are dry before evening. A top dressing of chicken manure soup every second week produces wonderful results in combination with compost. For crops which require higher levels of potassium, an application of comfrey tea, applied either as a drench or foliar spray, is very useful. Crop rotation. The rotation of crops in the vegetable garden is very crucial. Within Foundations for Farming, we have divided the different vegetables into 4 rotational groups. These are Group 1. Green leafies. Cabbages, cauliflowers, Chinese cabbages, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, turnips, mustard, rape and kale. Group 2. Root crops. Carrots, beetroot, parsnips. Also added to this group, onions, garlic, cucumbers, pumpkins, squashes, melons and marrows. Group 3. Fruiting vegetable. Tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, chilies and brinjal. Also added to this group, lettuce and spinach. Group 4. Legumes. Peas and beans. These 4 groups are rotated one after the other within the vegetable garden. An example of this would be to start with green leafies in one bed of the first season, and then when that crop is done, it would be followed by a crop from the legume group. That would then be followed by a crop from the fruiting group, then a root crop, and only then back to the green leafies. This rotation plan allows for greater control of pest and disease pressure. Most of the principles utilized by Foundations for Farming for field crops are applicable in the garden. The only principle which we would not follow is the use of crop residues as mulch. To avoid disease buildup in this very intensive system, it is advisable to remove the crop residues and make compost out of them. For more in-depth details on our vegetable practices, please contact us.